Angus, welcome to the Sipping Point.
Thank you, Laurie. I'm excited to tell you all about Wynk.
Yes, well, I've been doing this podcast for many, many years, and I've had wine professionals, beer professionals, spirits professionals, but you are my very first person to come on with a beverage that's infused with THC and CBD. So this is exciting. I can't wait to learn more. How did you come up with the idea, since your background is in tech, how did you come up with this idea to create a company with these beverages?
Yeah, prior to Wynk, I worked in tech in California, a bunch of well-known companies, Google, SpaceX, Tesla, and really focused on, mechanical design and innovation. I left Tesla trying to start something on my own, and I didn't have much cannabis experience at all. I was an alcohol consumer, but not a cannabis consumer. One thing that I noticed, though, was THC beverages were growing in Canada, but they barely existed in the US. So I was trying to figure out why this was. The challenge when we started Wynk in late 2020, early 2021 was in order to do THC-infused beverages, you had to produce them in each state that you sold. And the product had to be produced under, the state licensed cannabis frameworks. If you wanted to create a THC beverage brand, you had a real problem. You'd have to get a processing license in each state. Every state's program was different. You'd have to build a facility, get it approved, build a whole canning line, which is very expensive, and then do that in every single state you wanted to sell. The other issue was that there was limited distribution in each state. Some states had less than 50 dispensaries, so you had less than 50 places to sell. And that kind of presented the opportunity for me. With my background in tech, I said, well, we could build a 53-foot tractor trailer with everything, you need to produce THC beverages. And instead of getting licenses and building facilities in each state, we could use our mobile production system, partner with existing license holders that had space, and really bring the production technology to them. So that was the original idea. And then, it got really interesting when we started formulating and experimenting with THC drinks. I had tried a bunch of Canadian products. We were formulating our own. And for myself and my two co-founders, Casey Parzik and Sean Sheehan, none of us had cannabis experience. And we tried high dose, and it was just way too intense. Like, the effect was overwhelming. We tried medium dose, 20 milligrams, still too strong. And then we tried 2.5 milligram, very, very low dose, similar intensity of effect as a light beer or a glass of wine. And that's when this turned into a interest in the technology to a very, very honest interest in the product itself. And what we found was that these low dose THC beverages are a really compelling alternative to alcohol. I don't think any of us had the, thought that we'd quit alcohol, but it created a great solution for a variety of occasions that alcohol wasn't the best solution. And that, made us insanely passionate about both the product and the underlying engineering problem. So that was sort of the initial premise for Wynk, was let's solve this technology problem. And then it became, an extreme passion for the category of low-dose beverages.
I love that. And one of the things I noticed, and I have your summer flavor here that I'm going to sip, which is the Mandarin Pomelo. It's going to be a seasonal flavor, as I understand. But one of the things that I notice is that, at least in the traditional flavors that I have here, you're blending both THC and CBD. So curious, was that like trial and error, or what was the whole impetus to put them together?
We did a lot of survey work in the early days to see if, consumers wanted CBD in addition to THC. It's obviously not cheaper to do. So we were very intentional with adding CBD. And what we found is a lot of consumers did desire THC to be paired with CBD, and it has a balancing effect. Where THC can create a lot of anxiety or intense hunger, a lot of these sort of effects that you don't want, CBD has a way, at least in the consumer's eyes, of balancing it. And so that's why the original Wynk SKUs and our 2.5 and 5 milligram SKUs that we sell today all have CBD. We recently launched 10 milligram, and there are a lot of consumers that don't want CBD. So we use that as an opportunity to create a tea. It also made sense from a formulation standpoint. You kind of end up with too much in the drink, too much cannabinoids in the drink. So 10 milligrams THC only, and a lot of consumers asked for that and enjoy it.
So I just took a sip of the summer seasonal here, and it's delicious. And one of the things I do love about these drinks is that they're 0 calories, and the flavor is really good. Sometimes 0 calorie things just don't live up to the hype or the taste. What do you do to get such great flavor in a 0 calorie drink? And is that something you guys were also envisioning, was a beer is 100 calories, a glass of wine, 120. So is it like calorie consciousness as well?
Yeah, maybe we start with why. Why is Wynk zero calorie? Um, Coming into the space in 2021, that was what was so interesting with THC. People have spent decades trying to find a way to do zero calorie alcohol. It's not possible. And so what we saw with these beverages was an opportunity for the first time to sell consumers an adult beverage with an undeniable effect, but be able to do it with no calories. THC unlocks that. And that's, probably the single most interesting thing to me about Wynk is the ability for, a consumer to walk into a liquor store or bar and have an option for the alcohol occasion with no calories for the first time. So we're very intentional about making Wynk zero calorie, zero sugar, and all natural. It's a brand promise, if you will. If you buy Wynk, you should expect that of the Wynk beverages, and we'll continue to do so. The way that we do it, there's a little bit of magic. Can't share all our secrets, but I think the important thing with Wynk is that, we use all natural ingredients. We make them very clean and intentional. If you buy Wynk and you're getting black cherry, you should have a pretty clear expectation of what it'll taste like, and then we deliver that. What we've tried to avoid is really sort of esoteric flavors that you can't come into the experience with an expectation because it's so bizarre. So you'll find that, all our flavor systems are fairly straightforward. And when you buy a black cherry, a juicy mango, a lime twist, they'll taste, the way that you expect. I guess the last piece on formulation, we definitely ride there's a very tight balance between masking the cannabis flavor. We're obviously adding, extracts to the drinks, and it can be very tricky to cover that up and not make it taste like, weed.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
Yes.
And so, we try to add just enough flavor to mask it and make it taste like, a normal beverage, but do it without, loading it with sugar, which many others do because it's very easy to hide the flavor with sugar. It's very, very tricky to do it without sugar. So it's a very creative formulation. We do formulation in-house and we have expertise there, but we continue to be able to deliver these, zero calorie beverages in a way that they just taste like normal drinks. And then, with our 2.5 and 5 milligram drinks, similar intensity of effect of beer or wine, not the same effect, but the same intensity. Those are modeled after LaCroix, Waterloo, Polar, just lightly flavored seltzers, very true seltzers. And then with 10 milligram, we were answering a lot of distributor, retailer, and customer feedback. When those three things align, it means you should do it. And that feedback was to get into lemonades, deliver more flavor, deliver more THC. And so that's exactly what we did. And with 10 milligram, we have a normal lemonade, a strawberry, and a raspberry lemonade. They are very flavorful, very, very intense flavor, but still true to the Wynk ethos, which is zero calories, zero sugar.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I was doing a little reading a couple articles about, did you also innovate the way the THC is dosed in the seltzer? Is it done from the bottom of the can? Did I get that right?
Yeah, Wynk's had an interesting evolution in the way that the product's made. As I mentioned before, we started with 53-foot tractor trailers. In 2021, 2022, we had 2 of these trailers running around the country. We'd take the trailer to a licensed processor in a single state. We'd show up for 2 to 3 days, produce 30 to 70,000 cans, and then move on to the next state. And we'd let them sell through the inventory. And before they ran out, we'd come back and restock it. So that was the original production system. It was traditional canning with a couple nuances to fit, the regulations. But we ultimately outgrew it. Wynk was in 12 markets. We had 2 teams running 2 trailers all over the country, and we just couldn't produce it fast enough. So we designed a sort of next generation of the technology, and that was to take traditional beverage cans, empty, from any can supplier, and we built a machine that you can punch a hole in the bottom of the can, insert a one-way valve. It was very subtle. Most consumers would never notice. And then we could fill them at home on our canning lines undosed. So it tasted like Wynk, it looked like Wynk, carbonated, everything was done. It just didn't have THC. In doing so, we could produce it at scale at our facility and ship it across state lines to our partners. And then we designed a small dosing machine that you could load a case of 24 cans at a time into this machine in the state, inject a very small amount of THC into the can, precisely dose it, and at that point it'd be ready for sale. So we switched from producing in every state that we wanted to sell to producing everything at home and then just dosing in each state that we sold. So that was sort of the second generation of the production technology. But in 2023, the regulatory landscape changed. And, the way that it changed, it allowed us to use THC derived from hemp instead of marijuana. It's the same THC molecule with the same effect. But because hemp is federally legal, we could dose the cans at our facility and then ship across state lines and sell them through alcohol licensed retail all over the country. So as we exist today, it's from a production standpoint, very close to traditional beverage. We produce at scale. We have a very large facility, and then we sell through licensed alcohol wholesalers in each state, and it shows up at your local liquor stores, bars, restaurants, just like alcohol.
Yeah. Well, while you were explaining, I took a little sip of the tangerine, which I think is delicious and true to flavor. And so I guess you're saying now that so many more states have opened up, you can produce all in your one location and ship out from there. Are all states allowing the hemp derived?
It's very complex, very dynamic, but today we ship to about 20 states. We sell through retail in about 20 states. We should be around 23 by the end of the year. And that makes up about as many states in the US that you can currently sell these products through licensed alcohol retailers. We hope that more will come, and we're seeing regulations change state by state in favor. We also sell online, and we ship to about 40 states online. But it's amazing. I was in Chicago last week, and Chicago's a really good market for us. And it's good because a lot of our business is on premise. So you can find Wynk on the menu at bars and restaurants. And
wow,
I was at a very nice bar. Wynk was on the menu, and I was with our team, and I was joking, in 2021, when we launched in Ohio through the medical dispensary market. I couldn't even go to a store and see our product on a shelf because I couldn't get in because I didn't have a medical card. Now I can go to Chicago to a bar or restaurant that I'd be at anyways and order it off the menu. It's changed so much, and it's, having ridden this wave over the years, it's really amazing.
Yeah, you talked about the team that you founded together, and did you all replace alcohol with these drinks, or do you still maybe have a beer now and then and a Wynk on a different occasion?
I'm still a huge fan of alcohol. I think there's always occasions for alcohol, and I enjoy it. I drink a light beer. I really like Scotch. The Scotch one's kind of ironic because all the products we make are very light. Scotch is like the exact,
intense.
Yep. But yeah, I still enjoy alcohol. What I found with Wynk is that there's maybe new occasions or different occasions that I wouldn't typically have an adult beverage that I now can with Wynk. I also, it's just probably cut my alcohol consumption in half. There's just so many occasions that it works really well for me. And I think many others are finding the same. But still a huge fan of alcohol. And
good. We don't want to be out of business. We don't want to be out of business. So if someone's never tried maybe THC in general, or definitely not, and some of these drinks, and I know it's probably different for every person how it affects you, but maybe they're a little scared or they just haven't done it. Explain a little bit more about the 2.5 and the 5 milligrams versus the 10. In that, people, we all have heard crazy stories about somebody taking a gummy or something that was super high dose and having like this terrible experience, maybe even ending up in the emergency room or whatever. People that don't know what they're doing, these are not even in the realm of those kind of situations. Explain to people what these are like.
Yeah, there's a really important difference between these beverages and traditional edibles, and specifically the edibles that everybody has a horror story from. The key difference is that your body absorbs THC from beverages much faster than edibles and much more reliably. So most consumers report, beginning to feel an effect in 15 to 20 minutes, which is similar to alcohol. And then the offset is about an hour and a half. And so you're sort of riding this curve of effect that is a lot more similar to alcohol than traditional edibles that take much longer for your body to break down. That's really important because it makes it really controllable and repeatable. And so that's a huge benefit to beverages over edibles. It's a easy way around that usual horror story where it hits you 6 hours later and it lasts for a day. Nobody wants that. And then in terms of doses, it's confusing for many consumers because these drinks are in milligrams, whereas alcohol is usually percentage by volume. But we always tell consumers start with a 2.5. It's a very small dose, regardless of your tolerance. Even if you're a new consumer like I was in 2021, I always say it's similar intensity of effect as like a light beer or wine. So if you have one, much like with beer or wine, you're not drunk. With a 2.5 milligram drink, you're not high or out of control in any way. But you can start there. And the nice thing with these beverages is they're sessionable. You can have one if you choose. You can have multiple. You can have multiple over a long period of time. And so it's a good way to sort of dip your toe in and see where your tolerance is. Many consumers find that it's not enough. And so we offer 5 milligram. And if that's not enough, we offer 10. But starting with 2.5, you can experiment and stack multiple up over time to learn your tolerance. For me, having been in this business for 5 years, my favorite is still the 2.5. I haven't built a tolerance, so to speak, and that's my beverage of choice. But we have a lot of consumers that are new to cannabis. They're professionals and they love the 10s. It just affects them differently. 2.5 is a great entry point.
Well, now you mentioned I saved this one for last, the lemonades and the 10 milligram product. So this is the raspberry lemonade that I grabbed to try. So you were saying that this was a request from the stores, from the consumer. What brought this all together? What were people looking for? Just to have one drink instead of two? Or, I mean, these are no calories, so no harm, no foul. But
yeah, it was a hard decision for us. Wynk's tag is seltzer with a wink of THC. It's always been playing on this notion of a low dose drink. Up until the end of last year, we thought low dose was 5 milligram. But what consumers are telling us is that for many, 10 is the high end of low dose.
Okay.
And so we expanded into 10 milligram. It's really just consumer feedback. There's many consumers out there that need more to have the effect that they want, and we want to make sure that we're delivering that. The other side of it, though, I don't think we'll ever go over 10 milligram through the licensed alcohol route to market. And my fear is that once you get over 10 for a new consumer, it can really be too much and that horror story experience, which we never want to deliver through beverage. So we go up to 10. And I think in the future, many of the states are regulating 5 or 10 milligram caps through the licensed alcohol channel. And I think it's for that reason. You have uneducated consumers with easy access. You want to make sure that, you're not going to give them a bad experience. In the dispensary channel, where it's educated consumers going to a place where they can get education, I think there'll always be, higher dose beverages available. And there's a strong market for that. When we were selling through dispensaries, we did drinks up to 100 milligrams.
Wow.
Which in the dispensary channel for the dispensary consumer, there's a lot of demand there. But when we left the dispensary channel, we, made a very intentional choice to self-regulate and not do more than 10.
And I think I know the answer to this question, but you have to be 21 like you do with alcohol to purchase, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything that we sell through retail is at, a retailer that has an alcohol license, is in the habit of age gating. In some states, we could sell outside of that channel. We self-regulate, not to. We want to make sure that people selling Wynk are, in the habit of checking IDs.
Yeah. And I'm just so impressed at how you can get the intensity of the flavor. This is the raspberry lemonade with 0 calories. It's just impressive. So whatever your secrets are, they're working, Angus. They're working. I know that, obviously you're in some states on premise, but if folks want to check out Wynk, see more about the different flavors, the drinks, the different strengths that you offer, how can they go and find you and see if their state is one of the 40 that they can order to?
So our website's drinkwynk.com, DRINKWYNK.com. There's a lot of educational content on there. We have a very active blog where we're, posting sort of in-depth research on topics that consumers often ask about. We also have a store locator, so you can find stores near you. And then if you choose, you're able to order online and have it shipped directly to your door. It's more expensive online. It just costs us a lot more to get the product to consumers. Many choose to just, for the convenience, they'll buy it online, see if they like it, and then go find us on their store locator.
Okay. Well, a lot of times when I'm doing these interviews, we'll say it isn't rocket science, but I kind of think you found a way to bring rocket science to these drinks. So I really appreciate that. I think your story is amazing and the drinks are great. And I just thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing what's next for Wynk.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.